in the country. We need to take what we did in South Carolina and we need to go national with it, amidst ongoing criticisms from the Trump campaign.
And how is this back and forth playing out among the voters?
Well, according to a recent Monmouth University/Washington Post poll, Trump leads by 26 points in South Carolina, with 62% potential primary voters trusting him more to handle immigration issues. Haley, however, is not backing down, given her efforts to emphasize her Tea Party roots while managing to appeal to moderates and independents.
An interesting situation indeed. Thank you for the update, Greg. We'll continue to follow this story. In a shift indicating a change in consumer behavior, 2023 marked a decline in toy sales across the United States. Market research firm Circana reported an 8% drop in both dollar terms and unit sales compared to the previous year, a trend that starkly contrasted with historical consumer patterns, particularly during the festive season. The study suggests that while shoppers bought fewer toys, they also opted for cheaper options, indicated by a 2% decrease in the average selling price. This change in consumer habits comes amidst ongoing global economic challenges. The broader context of rising inflation and economic uncertainty has left many households focusing on essential purchases over discretionary ones. Despite the bleak picture, Julie Lennett, vice president and toy industry advisor at Circana, offered a silver lining. Compared to pre-pandemic levels in 2019, the overall toy industry sales increased by $5.7 billion. She also noted a positive compound annual growth rate over 4 years. Nevertheless, a significant potential factor weighing on consumer behavior, particularly for the important demographic of millennials, is student loan repayment. Newly updated government data revealed around 9 million borrowers missed their initial student loan payment post-pandemic in 2023. Lennett warns that this could potentially impact toy sales, as millennials are key consumers in this market due to their young families. Moreover, Hasbro, a prominent industry company, laid off nearly 20% of its workforce in December, owing to a slump in toy purchases. The report acknowledges the challenges in the industry, but highlights an uptick in millennial and Gen Z customers in the collectible toy market, seen in popular Austin-based toy store chain, Toy Joy. Lastly, Circana's report revealed that among the toys purchased in 2023, the top 3 best-selling brands were Pokémon, Barbie, and Squishmallows. These brands dominated across 11 toy supercategories, including dolls, plush toys, building sets, action figures, games, and puzzles. The news continues. Soundly Human Newsroom starts in 60 seconds. In political news, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s campaign is under scrutiny, as the Democratic National Committee has filed a Federal Election Commission violation complaint against it. The DNC alleges an illegal coordination with an outside group, recognized as American Values 2024, supporting Kennedy's presidential bid. The complaint lays out claims that this group is illegally assisting Kennedy in his signature gathering efforts, a compulsory step to access several states' presidential ballots. Regrettably, questions and disputes have arisen over the campaign finance laws surrounding these actions. Let's explore further. Greg, What can you tell us about these allegations?
Yes, Ruth. These allegations are delicate. The complaint states American Values 2024 is violating campaign finance laws by directly coordinating with Kennedy's campaign on ballot access endeavors. Such contributions from the group to aid the signature-gathering efforts could be seen as dubious under federal law. However, both RFK Jr. and his campaign manager deny these claims. Kennedy stressed in a social media post, defending his campaign and reiterating the transparency of his actions. Further, the campaign manager stresses that they have never received any in-kind contributions from American Values or any PAC.
It's quite a serious complaint, isn't it? The DNC seems to tie the signature-gathering disputes with the former president and his aiders.
Certainly, Ruth. The DNC has explicitly mentioned its concerns about supporters of the former president, like Republican mega-donor Tim Mellon, giving large contributions to the Kennedy-aligned PAC, referring to the situation as an attempt to subvert election laws by propping up Kennedy as a stalking horse.
Definitely a situation to keep a close eye on as the presidential race heats up. Thanks for the details, Greg. The NFL's most recent powerhouse, with 2 Super Bowl victories under their belt and playing in their 4th within a span of 5 seasons, is set to return to the grandest stage of them all this Sunday, Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. This marks their 2nd Super Bowl appearance in consecutive years, setting them up for a potential accomplishment not seen in the NFL in 2 decades: securing back-to-back championships. Last year, the Chiefs clinched victory in an enthralling game against the Philadelphia Eagles, bouncing back strongly in the playoffs against a challenging regular season. Nevertheless, protecting the prestige of Vince Lombardi Trophy warrants exceptional strategy and tenacity that even the legendary franchises sometimes struggle to demonstrate. The 1990s Chicago Bulls and the late 90s New York Yankees both celebrated three-peat victories, but with the single-game elimination structure of the NFL postseason, retaining the championship is a daunting task. Only 7 teams have achieved consecutive Super Bowl victories so far, with the Pittsburgh Steelers being the only franchise ever to achieve this feat twice. In comparison, repeat championships in the NBA have been more frequent, with the Lakers achieving this twice since 2000, and the Miami Heat and Golden State Warriors securing back-to-back titles within the past decade. In the world of soccer, only the acclaimed Real Madrid team, led by Cristiano Ronaldo, and Spain's national team have been able to establish a 3-year winning streak since 2000. The former in UEFA Champions League and latter in international championships. The Chiefs are now poised for another opportunity to bring home back-to-back Super Bowl titles, having triumphed in Super Bowl 54 against San Francisco 49ers, and later relinquishing the title to Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can they muster up the necessary resilience and strategy to beat the odds and join the elite club of back-to-back champions? That's the story we'll be watching unfold this Sunday. To our global affairs now. The West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, is urging the military-led governments of Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali to reconsider their recent decision to exit the political and economic alliance. This action came about as a result of the bloc's appeals for these countries to restore constitutional order, following a series of military coups. Over to our correspondent, Greg Spear.
Thank you, Ruth. The 3 countries' self-designated military leaders made their joint announcement to quit ECOWAS on the 28th of January, a decision that threatens to further weaken the bloc, which has been grappling to curb a regression of democracy since the military coup in Mali back in 2020. Now, the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council convened in Nigeria's capital Abuja to address this contentious issue and also a brewing electoral crisis in Senegal, where the stalled presidential vote has stirred domestic outcry and international concern.
Quite alarming indeed, Greg. What is the ECOWAS stance on these departures?
ECOWAS's stance is somewhat firm, Ruth. Council Chairman Yusuf Maitama Tugger made it clear that the junta's withdrawal would inflict more hardship and harm upon the citizens of those 3 countries, hence the plea for them to remain. It's also indicative of a re-energizing of their diplomatic efforts for dialogue and reconciliation. ECOWAS Commission President Omar Touré characterizes the junta's decision as impulsive and negligent of the official exit rules. However, he did not specify which withdrawal conditions were ignored.
And what does this mean for the citizens of these three countries and their ability to interact with neighboring states?
Excellent question, Ruth. An exit from the bloc potentially complicates things for the millions of individuals from these nations who have settled in adjacent states, as ECOWAS permits visa-free travel and work rights. A prompt withdrawal suggests imminent issues tied to trade and service flows worth nearly $150 billion a year, putting the livelihoods of many citizens at risk.
We'll have to watch this space closely. Thank you, Greg. In a thrilling discovery, a piece of history from the World War II era was unearthed in Florida this week. A construction crew, while laying the groundwork for what will soon become the Wilton Simpson Technical College, stumbled upon an inert M65 ordnance, a type of bomb, near the Brooksville-Tampa Bay Regional Airport, BKV. Hernando County Sheriff Al Ninhuez conveyed that, despite the decayed state of the bomb, it was challenging to immediately discern its status as live munition or inert. However, bomb experts from Citrus County and MacDill later determined it to be harmless on Tuesday. Historical records remind us that the Brooksville Army Airfield was an integral part of World War II operations. Established in 1942, it served as a training ground for pilots and, interestingly, bomb squadrons, just like Tampa's MacDill Air Force Base and Drew Army Airfield. Thus, it's likely that this relic is an intriguing leftover from this bygone era. In the news today, CNN has learned that the White House has been hosting an unprecedented series of election security drills. In preparation for the 2024 presidential race, senior national security officials gathered to discuss potential cyber threats. They reportedly delved into an array of hypothetical situations, including the emergence of fake AI-generated videos targeting candidates and violence at the polls. Our reporter Greg Spear has been following this story closely. Greg, what more can you tell us?
Ruth, these threat simulations have left top officials wrestling with difficult questions. How will the government tackle deepfakes? How should it respond if violence erupts on Election Day? If an AI-generated video emerges and the source is uncertain, should the public be informed? As it stands, they're in uncharted territory. The threat surfaces are vast: the disinformation potential of AI, the targeting of election officials, the possible need to respond swiftly to foreign operations targeting the election, and the legal limitations that exist if American citizens might be involved.
So what tactics are federal officials leaning towards to respond to these potential threats?
According to sources, they're considering a rather muted approach, Ruth. There seems to be a preference to let the public messaging be led by state and local governments. This stratagem aims to combat mounting skepticism and distrust towards the federal government among some voters. However, they are aware of the delicate balance they must maintain, as not all state or local governments might have the resources to effectively combat such disinformation. Key examples include Nevada, still determining how to tackle AI-generated fakes, given budgetary constraints.
The question remains, how equipped is the U.S. to combat election interference?
Therein lies the crux of the issue, Ruth. The Senate Intelligence Committee reportedly received a briefing from various federal agencies about their preparation for election security. And although the administration insists that it is a top priority, there are still unresolved questions regarding their approach to AI-generated deepfakes. The reality is, as we head into the next election cycle, there's a simultaneous sense of urgency and caution.
In the latest travel news, a European airline has introduced a new policy that has got passengers talking. An iconic luxury train ride is branching out to a new destination, and Ukraine's railways continue to function, despite national conflict. The Venice Simplon Orient Express, one of the world's most prestigious train routes, will be making a never-before-made journey from Paris to Italy's Ligurian coast in June 2024, offering the ultimate in luxury travel for a hefty price tag.
That's right, Ruth. This glamorous and iconic trip along the Ligurian coast will not come cheap, as it's estimated at an impressive $8,500 one way. Over in Slovenia, a historic train route connecting it with Italy is being revived to support high-speed service, contributing significantly to their transportation infrastructure. Down in South Africa, a stationary train, Kruger Shelati, the train on the bridge, offers a unique and immobile hotel experience, offering guests breathtaking views of some of Africa's big five game animals.
How fascinating. And in Ukraine, the railways are proving vital for the country's ongoing conflict, it seems.
Absolutely, Ruth. The railways have become a lifeline in Ukraine, serving as a crucial mode of transportation for long-distance journeys, especially when air travel has proven risky or impossible over the past 2 years.
From trains to planes now, the latest celebrity air travel buzz surrounds Taylor Swift, who appears to have found herself in the middle of a private jet usage tracking controversy.
Yes, Swift's team threatened legal action against a student tracking her private jet usage, creating quite the trend in celebrity air travel news. Swift herself has allegedly sold her Dassault Falcon 900 LX, but is expected to use her larger Dassault Falcon 7X to fly her to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. She may face challenges with parking and jet lag, common issues for both celebrities and average travelers alike.
In other aviation updates, European airline Finnair has started weighing passengers before takeoff. Can you tell us why?
The airline is trying to refine weight estimates and adjust it by season, with the added weight of passengers' winter coats included. In a heartwarming turn of events, carry-on bags and warm passenger coats helped save 6 flamingo eggs aboard a flight from Atlanta to Seattle when the eggs' incubator malfunctioned. The baby flamingos are now thriving at Seattle's Woodland Park Zoo.
That's a lovely story. Lastly, any tips for those looking to escape the crowds when traveling?
Absolutely, Ruth. Mexico's Riviera Nayarit on the Pacific coast and the archipelago of Zanzibar off the coast of East Africa are making some waves in the travel world. Both boast low-density populations and an array of luxurious tourist accommodations for those looking for a peaceful and exclusive travel experience. And don't forget your versatile beach tote that can double as a carry-on bag.
Excellent tips, Greg. Thank you for covering all these travel updates. Now, on to some cultural news. The Lunar New Year celebrations are on the horizon. Stay tuned for your Chinese zodiac fortune predictions for the Year of the Dragon, and learn more about China's stunning dragon dance tradition. We're turning now towards an unexpected shakeup in Pakistan's general election. Independent candidates affiliated with jailed political leader Imran Khan's party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or PTI, have stunned observers as they emerged with the majority of seats in the National Assembly. For details on this, let's go over to Greg Spear in Islamabad. Greg, what more can you tell us about this surprise victory?
Ruth, the Election Commission of Pakistan has reported that independent candidates have won 98 seats so far, while the political giants like the Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz Party, or PMLN, and Pakistan People's Party, earned 69 and 51 seats respectively. There are, however, still 22 seats unclaimed. Many of these independents are affiliated with Imran Khan's party, putting them in a pivotal position, but certainly short of gaining unilateral control.
What are the ramifications of these results for Pakistan's future governance?
Well, Ruth, the reality is that none of the three major parties will achieve the 169 seats necessary for a parliamentary majority. This has left the country in limbo as to who will be appointed as the next prime minister. However, one thing we do know is that the eventual government will be a coalition.
There's been some controversy with this election, hasn't there?
Indeed, Ruth Khan, who's been behind bars since August, has been using AI to get messages out to his supporters. His AI-generated speech claimed victory and called for protesters to protect their vote in a peaceful way, amidst allegations of vote rigging and a slow vote count. But these allegations don't just extend to vote counts. Khan has accused the military of orchestrating his removal from office last year, adding a significant layer of tension to these proceedings.
Describe the situation on the ground for us.
Ruth, protests have already broken out over these contentious elections, with 2 people killed and 24 injured in Shangla during a confrontation between Khan's supporters and police. The PTI party has organized a protest outside polling offices on Sunday, calling for protests to be peaceful and lawful.
So, what's next in Pakistan's political landscape?
It's uncertain for now, Ruth. The election's outcome has rattled traditional political roles and generated sizable international concern about fairness and transparency in the process. With economic uncertainty, frequent militant attacks, and climate catastrophes looming large, the path forward for Pakistan is not an easy one.
Absolutely, Greg. A complex situation unfolding in Pakistan. Thank you for your insight. we are stepping into some exciting news for all you Grey's Anatomy fans out there. Primetime's longest-running TV medical drama is rolling out the red carpet for its 20th season next month. The prolific show will be welcoming back a familiar face to the halls of Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital. Jessica Capshaw, who once hung up her scrubs after appearing in 10 seasons of the show, is making a comeback as the beloved character, Dr. Arizona Robbins.
That's right, Ruth. Capshaw, celebrated for her portrayal of Arizona, a pediatric surgeon who was half of one of television's most admired couples, is all set to place her footprints back in Grey Sloan Memorial Hospital. It seems we are in for quite the nostalgic ride.
And speaking of her on-screen romantic liaison, any whispers on the fate of her relationship now?
There definitely are hopes that her return, minus her one-time partner, will throw some light on the status of that relation. Also adding to the excitement is the return of another hallowed character, Dr. Nico Kim, played by Alex Landy. All eyes will also be on new face, Natalie Morales, known for her roles in Parks and Recreation and Dead to Me, who steps in as pediatric surgeon, Monica Beltran.
When can fans expect all this to unfold on their screens?
Mark your calendars, viewers. The grand return is set to unfurl on Thursday, March 14th at 9 p.m. on ABC and will be streaming the next day on Hulu.
Surely many viewers will be excited to see these characters return to their beloved show. Thank you for the update, Greg.
Pleasure to bring the exciting news to our audience, Ruth.
In our top news today, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has ordered plans for the evacuation of the population from Rafah, a densely populated city in southern Gaza, according to an official statement released on Friday. Around 1.3 million residents, most of whom are displaced from other parts of Gaza, may be affected by this operation. Notably, Rafah is perceived as Hamas's final stronghold. Netanyahu stressed the difficulty of eliminating Hamas while maintaining military presence in Rafah. Understandably, the mass evacuation could trigger massive displacement of Palestinian people. Satellite imagery reveals a significant expansion of a tent city in Rafah within weeks, reflecting the exodus from combat zones. Meanwhile, the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas' office issued a statement condemning the military escalation plans, terming them as a dangerous prelude and a real threat. Residents of Rafah have voiced their fears to CNN, expressing concerns over possible shortage of supplies and the lack of alternative havens. Brigadier General Dan Goldfuss of the IDF's 98th Division shared that no concrete plans for minimizing civilian deaths have been laid out yet, even as President Joe Biden criticized Israel's previous actions as over the top. The American president also stressed the need for humanitarian aid in Gaza. Meanwhile, UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric expressed deep concern over civilian safety in Rafah, given the city's dense population, stressing the unacceptability of forced displacement. This warning was echoed by the Norwegian Refugee Council, which envisages Rafah soon turning into a zone of bloodshed and destruction that people won't be able to escape. Stay tuned for detailed coverage and analysis on these developments. Up for discussion, we have an incredible story out of the Dutch 3rd Division Soccer League, where goalkeeper Lars Janssen unknowingly scored a long-range goal from his own half-leading Noordwijk team to a 3-1 victory over Amsterdam FC. This was a critical play that sent shockwaves through the stadium, setting Noordwijk on the path for a win. Greg, how exactly did this happen?
Quite an amazing and rare phenomenon, Ruth. The game was evenly poised at 1-1 when Janssen, seeing a pass being played towards his goal, ran out of his area to clear it and was knocked down by Amsterdam's forward Marciano Mengerink in the process. Even as he lay face down on the ground, the ball flew nearly the full length of the field, bounced over opposing goalkeeper Gijs van Zetten, and nestled into the goal.
You mentioned Janssen didn't realize he'd scored. What was his reaction once he found out?
His disbelief was apparent, Ruth. Even his teammates celebrated his unexpected achievement by rushing to him. In a post-match interview with Dutch outlet Voetbal in De Bollenstreek, Janssen admitted he didn't see his goal due to the collision. He laughed off the fact that it wasn't a deliberate goal, adding that it's rare for him to score, but when it happens, it's worth savoring. This, he disclosed, was his first goal as a goalkeeper, a position usually known more for stopping goals rather than scoring them.
Certainly a night Jansen and his teammates will never forget. Truly one for the soccer history books. In a fresh bout of controversy for social media giant TikTok, former senior executive Katie Puris is filing a lawsuit against the company, alleging gender-based and age-based discrimination during her tenure. Puris alleges uneven expectations, retaliation for airing her concerns, and a lackadaisical response to an incident of sexual harassment at a work event. This is not the first time TikTok has been accused of discriminatory practices, with former Black employees filing a complaint just last September. Despite being the head of global brand and creative, Puris alleges she was subjected to differential treatment for not fitting the stereotypical female mold and not being pliable and innovative, as per the preference of company seniors. Furthermore, Puris alleges the severe stress of the workload led to multiple team members going on medical leave, with the company implying her own leave would affect her compensation. The lawsuit also claims retaliation, in the form of poor performance reviews and a reduced team size, following complaints about discrimination and workload. During a company event, Puris reports sexual harassment from a business partner's employee, leading to insufficient action from TikTok's ethics team. Amid ongoing scrutiny over the company's connection to Chinese parent company ByteDance, Puris complaints highlight the continued control of certain departments by ByteDance leadership. With an already beleaguered image, the allegations brought forth by Puris add more fuel to the ongoing debate surrounding workplace practices at TikTok. We turn our attention now to the milestone ruling in a high-profile trial that may have far-reaching implications for gun-owning parents across America. Jennifer Crumbley was convicted earlier this week on 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter, following last year's mass shooting at Oxford High School, Michigan. A tragedy perpetrated by her son, Ethan. The father, James Crumbley, awaits his trial on similar charges. Let's check in with Greg Spear standing by for more on this. Greg, how could this verdict potentially impact James Crumbley's trial, set to start on March 5th?
Ruth, legal analysts are believed that similar charges and evidence against James Crumbley could have the same outcome as his wife's trial. However, certain elements differ. For instance, James was the one to physically buy the firearm patented in the crime, and he was portrayed as the one responsible for securing firearms within their home. His knowledge of their son's mental health issues will also be highlighted. How knowledgeable he was on these will be a critical focus during the trial.
Greg, what repercussions do you think this might have for gun-owning parents around the country?
Prosecutors argued that James demonstrated gross negligence in giving a gun to his son and failing to secure mental health services for him, despite clear warning signs. If convicted, this could set a legal precedent that parents may be held liable if a minor child commits a violent act with a firearm provided them amidst signs of psychiatric stress.
What's the latest on the role Jennifer Crumbley played in this horrific event?
Prosecutors painted Jennifer Crumbley as an inattentive parent, neglecting her son's mental health and being dismissive of his cries for help. They also highlighted her as the last adult with the firearm before the incident, a point the jury seemed to focus on.
And the defense strategy for James Crumbley? Any insights?
It remains uncertain whether James will follow the path of his wife in taking the stand, be it blaming others, including his wife and son, for the tragedy. Some speculate he may consider accepting a plea deal to avoid trial altogether. His defense team will likely take cues from his wife's trial, adjusting their strategy accordingly.
Thank you for those insights, Greg. This certainly remains a case for the nation to follow, as it may redefine legal responsibilities for parents of troubled, gun-owning children. Stay tuned for more updates on the Crumbley case as they unfold. In recent horrifying news from Italy, a case involving the alleged gang rape of a 13-year-old girl in the Sicilian city of Catania has rocked the nation. Following reports of sexual attacks throughout the country, this incident has ignited intense debate and scrutiny on both violence against women and irregular migration issues in Italy. The 7 primary suspects of this case, all Egyptian and 3 of them minors, are now facing trial. This case was quickly used as justification for curbing migrant entry by the far-right government, despite significant opposition. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, known for her anti-immigration stance, has voiced her solidarity with the victim and her family. Yet, her efforts to regulate migration have yet to yield significant results. It's pertinent to note that the men currently on trial allegedly entered Italy between 2021 and 2022 as unaccompanied minors. A comparative look at legal processes across related cases is causing alarm. The accused Italian men of a previous gang rape case in Palermo were fast-tracked for trial behind closed doors, whereas no plea has been entered for the Egyptian suspects, and a prosecutor has already linked further charges concerning illegal immigration. To tackle recurrent issues of gender-based violence, Italian lawmakers recently enhanced penalties against such actions. However, the alarming rate at which women were victims of domestic homicides in 2022 demands further efforts. The in-depth focus on the suspected perpetrators' backgrounds in the latest case, raised by officials, cannot be ignored. Investigating Judge Carlo Umberto Canella ruled that all suspects should remain in custody during the investigation, citing the likelihood of repeated offense. Amid bloody crimes and violent abuses, Italy grapples for solutions, pressuring the nation to revisit domestic norms, legal discernment, and immigration policies. It challenges the world to confront how we protect the most vulnerable in our societies, while maintaining justice. In a grand spectacle that marks the culmination of years of effort and billions of dollars, Super Bowl 58 is set to be hosted in Las Vegas this Sunday. Anatomy of a celebration includes a long weekend of shows, food, and an estimate of 330,000 spectators to intensify city life. Serving as a token of transformation from the effects of COVID, in what has been a record rebound for our leisure-friendly city, this Sin City event hopes to provide both immediate financial surge and future promise for the city. CEO Steve Hill of Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority quotes it as a pinnacle moment for Vegas, with an optimistic economic impact projected around $800 million. The city hopes to come under the spotlight as a future arena for major sports events. The foot traffic and commercial boom is already being noticed by local businesses. Yet some, like Frank Stevenson, professor of economics at Berry College, express skepticism towards the otherworldly revenue figures. With Las Vegas already boasting a high occupancy, the Super Bowl might only displace regular visitors instead of adding to them. However, the wealth of visitors and their collective spending, as well as the event's week-long duration, raise expectations for heightened profits. Various venues, parties, and businesses, like Area 15, Planet 13, and Café Lola, report rising bookings and sales. The Super Bowl 58 Business Connect program aids diverse and minority-owned businesses to partner with NFL vendors and event producers, opening unprecedented pathways for companies. With the city experiencing a redefined phase of vitality, the small businesses anticipate a fruitful journey ahead, extending beyond Super Bowl weekend. We turn to this Sunday, intending to witness a mega event that could redefine the city's image and vitality. In a major offensive move against international cybercrime, the U.S. Justice Department announced the arrest of 2 individuals in Nigeria and Malta. These individuals were allegedly associated with a worldwide cybercrime ring known for selling American data pilfered from citizens and small businesses. In an operation spearheaded by Boston's FBI, group servers have been seized to dampen their operations. The crime syndicate sold a notorious hacking tool, Warzone Rat, quite affordably under $200. This software facilitated worldwide theft of personal and monetary data, potentially intended for sale on the dark web. According to the FBI's acting Deputy Assistant Director of Cyber Operations, Brett Leatherman, the damaging software has at least 7,000 purchasers, with some buyers as surprising as foreign governments, though he declined to identify the countries concerned. While this crackdown does not completely dissipate the hacking method, Leatherman stated to CNN that it does significantly degrade anybody's ability to get it and use it right now. This is welcomed news, seeing as the billion-dollar business of cybercrime continues to affect Americans across the board, despite strenuous efforts by the U.S. government to curtail its impact. Authorities arrested 27-year-old Daniel Meli in Malta and a 31-year-old Nigerian man, Prince Onyoziri Odinakachi. Both accused of differing roles. Meli for his sales of multiple hacking tools, including Warzone Rat, and Odinakachi for allegedly providing customer support for purchasers of the malicious software. The U.S. Justice Department is now seeking the extradition of both individuals. While these arrests mark a victory in the war against cybercrime, the survival of the criminal groups remains in the balance. This Sunday's Super Bowl promises to offer more than just a game of football. The NFL has transformed its sport into a vivid demonstration of the entertainment industry. Perhaps even more intriguing than the anticipated match between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers is the shadow of music icon Taylor Swift looming over the event. Mixed in with the high-octane football, star-studded ad spots and uproarious concert performances, Taylor Swift's presence adds another dynamic layer to the affair. The musical artist has become an unseen variable in the sport, galvanizing her substantial fan base, affectionately known as Swifties, into the realm of football culture. Swift's entry into the football world began back in September, joining the family of Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce in their private suite. This was the origin of the so-called Swift effect, resulting in an impressive 400% increase in sales of Kelce's number 87 Chiefs jersey. However, as is often the case in the world of fame and celebrity, not all reactions have been positive. Some have blamed Swift for a mid-season slump by the Chiefs. Commentators have criticized Swift's game coverage and even accused her of being a distraction. Despite the controversy, the starlet's involvement appears to have positively impacted viewer numbers, attracting a fresh, young, and notably female demographic to the sport. Estimates suggest that the Swift effect may have garnered approximately $330 million for the NFL, injecting new life and appeal into an established institution. This Sunday looks set to conclude the first chapter of Swift's football era, but the story is far from over. Chapter 2 promises to be every bit as gripping, whether it extends Swift's existing narrative or pivots to a spectacular Dear John moment, only time will tell. Taylor's imprint on the NFL, however, is indelible. Protests by farmers are mounting across Europe, as grievances over environmental regulations, excessive red tape, and a host of other issues continue to escalate. Using tractors to block major routes and ports, the farmers are effectively drawing attention to their claims of their profession becoming unviable. The demonstrations, which are widespread across countries, such as France, Italy, Spain, Germany, and others, clearly indicate the potential of this grievance-led movement to cause significant disruption. Despite agriculture only contributing 1.4% to the EU's GDP, unrest from the agricultural sector carries substantial weight, both nationally and across the EU. The primary concern voiced is the increasing costs tied to energy, fertilizer, and transport, which have undoubtedly been exacerbated by the war in Ukraine. Alongside this escalation, farmers have been contending with declining agricultural product prices and growing competition from inexpensive foreign imports. The protests extend to environmental concerns as well, specifically the EU's environmental targets, like the European Green Deal, which has drawn ire for its proposed regulations on carbon tax, pesticide limits, and restrictions on land use. As the protests persist, each European country confronts its unique grievances. From diesel taxes in Germany to issues with nitrogen taxation affecting pig and chicken farmers in the Netherlands, the struggles faced by these farmers are varied and complex. In response to the widespread demonstrations, the EU and respective governments have attempted to ease the pressure on farmers. Recent measures have included the delay of certain environmental regulations and extended tax rebates. France, for instance, has allocated substantial monetary support for livestock farmers and vowed to increase checks on imports that don't adhere to French and European regulations in a bid to protect domestic farming. Nevertheless, the farmers' plight continues to fuel criticism of the EU, as the June European Parliament elections approach. With far-right parties already capitalizing on farmer grievances and past elections reflecting the weight of rural anger, the resolution to this situation remains a critical challenge for the EU. In our first story today, we discuss the rising concerns amongst Democrats around the age and mental acuity of President Biden. Following the special counsel report, many House Democrats voiced their concerns regarding Biden's age and the potential impact on his performance as the president. These doubts were sparked despite the display of support and cheer by the Democrats at their annual retreat, where President Biden emphatically made a case for his continuation in office. The special counsel report, seen by some as a partisan move by a Trump appointee, highlighted the growing concerns around Biden's competency. Democrats are growing increasingly apprehensive that the questions around Biden's age could sway undecided voters to lean towards 4 more years of the far-right, anti-democratic agenda Trump is promising, if Biden's capacities appear to be on the decline. Despite this anxiety, there remains a faction within the Democratic Party who advocate for Biden's sharpness behind the scenes, a lucidity not often visible to the public eye. Democratic Representative Annie Kuster, initially skeptical about Biden running for re-election, said that after a meeting with the president, her doubts were quelled, remarking, "He's sharp, he's doing fine." Simultaneously, former West Wing aides voiced their concern over Biden's public image, stating that he often comes off stilted, and the actions of those around him meant to shield the president only breed further apprehension. However, Biden's supporters countered this narrative with their experiences of his impressive command of the issues and ability to deliver strong speeches. Many have argued that unscripted moments of Biden's day-to-day interaction with the public are perhaps the best way to combat the allegations raised in the special counsel report. Maryland Representative Jamie Raskin, for example, rebuked the age argument, stating, "Joe Biden is not walking around pretending that he's 30 years old anymore. He's running based on his wisdom and his experience and his fantastic accomplishments in office." In response to the special counsel's critiques, the Biden campaign denounced Trump as confused and deranged, calling him out for his continual lies. However, Democrats continue to advise Biden's campaign team to focus on his public image, arguing that he should focus on his strengths and create opportunities for the public to see his political virtuosity in action. In conclusion, while the concern around age and mental acuity continues to persist within the Democrats, many optimistic supporters of Biden retain faith in his leadership. Regardless of the critiques and concerns raised, President Biden has remained resolute, rebutting statements from the special counsel report by stating, "I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I'm the president. I put this country back on its feet." In a crucial shift in Ukrainian leadership, General Valery Zaluzhny has been officially replaced by President Volodymyr Zelensky, confirming widespread rumors. This change comes amid a challenging epoch in Ukraine's ongoing conflict with Russia, and could possibly represent a significant strategic transition. Ukrainian forces continue to experience setbacks, notably in the Donetsk and Kharkiv regions, where they face critical shortages of ammunition and experienced fighters. In stark contrast, the Russian military maintains an edge with a vast pool of soldiers and abundant war resources fueled by its oil revenues. President Zelensky has alluded to a pressing need for military modification during his conversations with Zaluzhny. The public sentiment in the country mirrors this urgency, with an increasing number of Ukrainians, now at 33%, worried about the nation's direction as compared to 16% in May 2022. General Oleksandr Syrsky, Zelensky's chosen replacement, is expected to prioritize the stabilization of Ukrainian front lines and the acceleration of Western munitions to the battlefield. Syrsky, however, has faced criticism for his insensitivity and rigidity. With the constant threat of Russian offensives, the most immediate objective is to ensure adequate artillery is readily available on the front lines to counterbalance Russian advances. The delay in U.S. military aid has already affected Ukrainian military planning. A glaring issue is the increasing number of Ukrainian soldiers killed or injured, with numbers estimated by U.S. officials to be as high as 70,000 and 140,000 respectively. The head of the Ukrainian military intelligence, Lieutenant General Kirilo Budanov, emphasized to CNN the crucial role of ammunition in the war, as living resources are taking unavoidable hits. To contest Russia's military advantage, Ukraine yearns for a substantial evolution in its battlefield technology, primarily in the domain of drones and cyber warfare, to aid in real-time surveillance and accurate targeting information. The new combat leader, Syrskyi, will be confronted with the task of integrating these modern systems into the battle plans. Emphasis will also be placed on enhancing the attacks against Russian military infrastructure and logistics, while synergizing the Ukrainian drone industry into the combat strategies. The Ukrainian military changeover, albeit complicated, calls for unity and a renewed sense of purpose among Ukraine's leadership. They face a looming test of combating Russian warfare strategy, revolving around overwhelming their opponents with numerical superiority, termed by Matthew Schmidt as a very Stalinist approach to the battlefield. In a recent development in the southern Philippines, a young girl's life was miraculously saved as she was pulled from the depths of a deadly landslide last Friday. This news comes as more than 110 others remain missing for days, amid difficult search conditions. Incident Commander Engineer Ariel Capoy briefed on Saturday that search and rescue operations are still in progress, hampered by limited visibility and unstable grounds. The frequent shifts in weather conditions have pushed local authorities to carry out preemptive evacuations, displacing approximately 1,559 residents across 8 evacuation centers, noted Elizabeth Wee, a provincial official. The young girl rescued is said to be in stable condition, which Davao de Oro Governor Dorothy Gonzaga is hailing as a sign of hope among the exacerbating crisis. However, families endure an agonizing wait for any potential news of their loved ones, with intermittent slides causing a halt to search efforts on several occasions. The predicament also has shed light on the plight of a large number of employees from local firm Apex Mining, who had been awaiting transport when the landslide occurred. At least 45 of the missing are believed to be Apex employees. Region-wide heavy rainfall since late January has led to more than 20 deaths due to floods and landslides, so says the National Disaster Authority. The totality of the problem is exacerbated by the landscape itself, with vast swaths of land covered in mud and a winding river flowing across the mine and adjoining villages. This serves as a telling reminder of the urgency to enhance our disaster preparedness and improve infrastructural resilience against increasingly unpredictable weather patterns. For now, the focus remains on hoping for more miracles as the search for survivors continues. I'm Ruth Sterling from Soundly Human, and we have an important weather update to share with you all. Large portions of the central Gulf Coast may experience severe thunderstorms, with potential hail and tornadoes by this Sunday. The disturbance, according to the Storm Prediction Center, is likely to stretch across eastern Texas to western Georgia, including major cities such as Houston, New Orleans, and Mobile, Alabama, and it threatens around 23 million people with severe weather conditions. From Monday, however, the weather menace is set to drift eastwards into Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, and South Carolina. The National Weather Service warns of heavy rainfall, which might precipitate flash flooding, especially in the Mid-South region. A level 1 out of 4 excessive rainfall risk is in place from Texas to North Carolina, indicating probable flash flooding. New Orleans residents may need to moderate their Mardi Gras celebrations as the parades could be interrupted by the expected rains. Notably, slowed by the weather, the revelers are advised to stay weather-aware. Potential rainfall rates stand at around 1 inch per hour, cumulatively exceeding 2 inches by end of Monday in some areas. Meanwhile, similar disturbances are causing a winter storm that's gradually shifting from the Rockies into the Ohio River Valley and the Northeast, affecting around 20 million people. Heavy snow bands promise to spread from central Oklahoma to Ohio and across the Northeast and southern New England from Monday to Tuesday. Central Pennsylvania to southern Maine will be under winter storm watches on Sunday, and they could receive 6 to 8 inches of snow, with some higher geographies predicted to get up to 10 inches. New York City, bracing itself for 1 to 2 inches of snow, is set to see wind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour along with the East Coast on Tuesday. The Weather Prediction Center alerts that the wet, heavy snow could pile up on trees and power lines, threatening power outages or blockages. Furthermore, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has urged residents to stay updated on the forecast and prepare for a storm system that could potentially impair travel conditions and cause power outages. Thus, while preparations for Super Bowl Sunday are in full swing, a storm system forecast threatens to mar the anticipation. Nodding to this, Governor Hochul stated, "I have directed state agencies to mobilize in preparation for this storm, and urge everyone to watch for weather and travel updates as it develops. Stay safe, everyone. More updates to follow." In a significant political development, GOP Representative Matt Rosendale has declared his candidacy for the Senate in Montana, contentious primarily against National Republicans' favored nominee, Tim Sheehy. An already tense race to challenge the Democratic Senator Jon Tester is anticipated. Despite Rosendale's loss to Tester in 2018, his determination to stand against Sheehy, a retired Navy SEAL with substantial backing from the National Republican Senatorial Committee, and Montana's junior senator, Steve Daines, is noteworthy. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's preference for Sheehy makes this contest pivotal for GOP strategies to flip the Senate. However, Rosendale remained critical of McConnell in his official campaign announcement, accusing him and Chuck Schumer of blocking House accomplishments in the Senate. Intriguingly, the race took another twist when former President Donald Trump endorsed Sheehy, whom he described as an American hero and a highly successful businessman. Trump's endorsement came as a blow to Rosendale's campaign, although it didn't dampen Rosendale's spirits. The former president still communicated his respect for Rosendale and hinted at future endorsements, diverting towards Sheehy's current position as the key to defeating Senator Jon Tester. Senator Daines echoed this sentiment, arguing that the Republican Party could not risk nominating a candidate who previously resulted in Tester's significant victory. Despite being a newer addition to the U.S. House elected in 2020, Rosendale sparked a revolt within the GOP leadership, voting to oust Kevin McCarthy from his Speaker position. Mike Johnson, the current House Speaker, also refused to endorse Rosendale's Senate bid, following reports of potential endorsement that led to backlash for Johnson. As for Tester, he's preparing for his fourth-term run in the red state, banking on his farming background and dedication to public land, Second Amendment rights, and the Montanan culture. Based on the recent filings, Tester closed December with a money advantage, having more than $11 million in cash, while Sheehy recorded over $1.2 million. Rosendale held nearly $1.7 million in his House campaign, which can be transferred to his Senate bid. Reflecting on the evolving dynamics, this Montana contest will indeed test the national GOP leaders, who are taking a more hands-on approach in the primaries, unlike before, when flawed nominees cost them seats. On our entertainment beat tonight, a new spin-off from a historic senior citizen dating show just received the green light from ABC. You may remember The Golden Bachelor, featuring Jerry Turner, a 72-year-old grandfather who rekindled love on the small screen. Well, it's time for a woman of the golden years to take the spotlight. We go now to Greg Spear for more details on this exciting development. Greg?
Absolutely, Ruth. ABC announced at the Television Critics Association conference on Saturday their decision to unveil The Golden Bachelorette, a female-fronted spin-off to the very successful The Golden Bachelor. The reality dating show for seniors was a hit last year, culminating in a TV wedding, something which we all got to witness live on ABC.
That was certainly a heartwarming culmination. Now, any word on who the leading lady for this new spin-off might be?
As of now, Ruth, the star of The Golden Bachelorette, has not been revealed. ABC's press release has promised further details on the cast and series will be announced later. However, they did hint that the show will highlight one radiant woman's second chance at love in her golden years.
It will be exciting to follow along and see who that might be. The Golden Bachelorette is just the latest spin-off in the ever-expanding The Bachelor franchise, isn't it?
Absolutely. The franchise, which saw its inception back in 2002, now has more than 60 seasons under its belt and has given viewers multiple spin-offs, including the likes of Bachelorette, Bachelor Pad, and Bachelor in Paradise. The love hunt is indeed ongoing, with ABC currently airing its 28th season of The Bachelor featuring Joey Graziadei. Back to you, Ruth.
Thanks for the update, Greg. From senior citizens finding love to waiting for ABC's announcement on the star of The Golden Bachelorette, it truly seems that love, much like TV, knows no age. We begin our coverage today with an unfolding human drama and dire search for answers in Gaza. A wave of desperation has gripped the region surrounding the case of 5-year-old Palestinian girl, Hind Rajab, who reportedly became trapped in a car with her deceased relatives following an incident of Israeli fire over a week ago. Joining us for more details on this is reporter Greg Spear. Greg, this is a desperate narrative with a child's life hanging in the balance, isn't it?
Absolutely, Ruth. The disappearance of little Hind and the 2 ambulance volunteers from the Palestine Red Crescent Society, who were dispatched to find her on January 29th, has created a crisis situation that is gripping not just Gaza but much of the world. In their latest statement, PRCS is pressing for answers, saying, "We need to know what has happened to Hind and the PRCS ambulance team." So many wonderful things can happen in a week, but for those waiting for news or for information, a week is anguish. Each moment is marked by worry and sadness.
What does the Israeli Defense Force say about this incident, Greg?
The IDF has said that they were unfamiliar with the specific incident, and when pressed on Monday about Hind and the missing PRCS crew, they added that they are still looking into it. CNN provided the Israeli military details about the incident, but so far, these claims have been met with inadequate responses, underlining the urgency for transparency.
Heartbreaking details are emerging about this case, and the conditions Hind was facing when her family's car was targeted, correct?
Indeed, Ruth. Hind was traveling with her uncle, his wife, and their 4 children, all fleeing the fighting in northern Gaza. An emergency call made by Hind's 15-year-old cousin, recorded by the PRCS and shared on social media, paints a chilling scene of the terrifying and frantic moments before they were targeted. 6 other people in the car, including Hind's cousin, are believed to have been killed, and Hind made a desperate plea for help, alone amid the bodies of her relatives. PRCS responder on the phone with Hind stated the girl was terrified as darkness was approaching and asked for someone to come get her.
What do we know about the Red Crescent Society's response during and after the crisis?
The PRCS reportedly maintained a phone connection with Hind for 3 hours, during which paramedics Yusuf Zaino and Ahmed Amtoun were dispatched to find her. However, they never reached her due to Israeli military operation in the area. The society lost contact with the team and Hind, and no one has heard from them in over a week. The PRCS is amplifying its appeal for answers, issuing multiple statements and social media posts demanding information about Hind and the paramedic team.
This incident is symbolic of deeper, ongoing humanitarian crises in the region, isn't it, Greg?
Absolutely, Ruth. Notably, the PRCS called Hind's case representative of all the suffering and brutality of the past few months, with Israel's intense campaign of air assaults across Gaza leading to almost 30,000 deaths and forcing close to 2 million people from their homes, causing a catastrophic humanitarian crisis.
Where does this leave Hind's family, who must be devastated?
Heartbreaking footage captured by CNN reveals Hind's distraught mother waiting outside a Gaza hospital, hoping that her daughter will arrive. Hind's grandmother remains hopeful for her safe return. They understandably are looking to the world for help and are desperately waiting for any credible information about Hind's current situation.
A heartrending story indeed. Let's hope that answers will come soon. Thank you, Greg, for your in-depth coverage on this troubling issue. Turning our attention now to the ongoing debate about the crisis at our southern border. The Democratic Party has long been challenged to acknowledge the valid concerns presented by Republicans about the disarray at the border and the inefficiencies of our current asylum system. Perhaps surprising to some, Senate Democrats along with the Biden administration made a move this week to address the issue, matching nearly step for step reforms once proposed by Republicans. Nevertheless, the tide, it seems, has changed within the Republican Party. Influential figures such as former President Donald Trump, House Speaker Mike Johnson, Governors Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis, and tech mogul Elon Musk are now advocating against changes to our asylum laws. They argue instead that President Biden should utilize executive action to resolve the current situation, a stark contrast from previous Republican statements stressing the need for a shift in legislation. This shift raises eyebrows, considering former President Trump attempted to employ executive action during his tenure with limited success, often being met with legal opposition. It is important to note that today's border crisis differs greatly from what usually comes to mind. There is no mass evasion of law enforcement. People are willingly approaching the border to apply for asylum, under a system which currently will permit them to work and reside in the country while they await their court hearings. Conservative commentator David Frum recently posited on CNN that the issue lies not in enforcing the law, but in the inadequacy of the current laws themselves. The pressure on border authorities and immigration offices remains palpable, with the number of apprehensions at the southwest border multiplied by 5 compared to a decade ago, and resources for agencies such as U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, severely lacking. The Senate bill proposed to alleviate some of these pressures by investing in additional staff, expediting the asylum adjudication process from years to a matter of months, and allowing the government to declare an emergency to halt incoming asylum seekers if numbers grow too high. However, the fight isn't over. Despite notable strides made in the proposed bill, critics argue the criteria for asylum is still too lenient, and House Republicans could play a crucial role by pushing for a more robust change in asylum laws. Yet, with Trump himself staunchly opposing the bill, it raises the question: is the opposition merely political grandstanding, or are we truly seeking a solution? This is a global issue, where the rest of the Western world is grappling with reforms to their own immigration and asylum laws, while we seem to be back and forth on this critical issue. So the question remains, will our politics serve to further inflame or quell this crisis? That's a story we'll keep bringing to you as it develops. That concludes this hour of Soundly Human Newsroom. The news continues in 60 seconds. Major news from the world of media, as Rolling Stone has announced that its editor-in-chief, Noah Schachtman, will be stepping down from his position effective March 1st. Schachtman, renowned for his rigorous reporting and scrutiny of the rich and powerful, has decided to part ways with the iconic music and culture magazine following discussions with chief executive Gus Wenner about the publication's direction. Despite signaling differences between him and Wenner, Schachtman expressed pride in his team's numerous achievements during his 2.5-year tenure, including a National Magazine Award, an Emmy nomination, achieving over 2 billion views in 1 year, and the formation of a remarkable team. As Schachtman steps down from his position, the reins will be handed over to Deputy Editor Sean Woods and Digital Director Lisa Totsi, who will assume editorial leadership responsibilities on an interim basis. Despite this transition, there's no rush for Rolling Stone in finding a new editor, indicating confidence in the present team. Schachtman, former editor of the Daily Beast, leaves behind a significant legacy at Rolling Stone, having led a transformative period for the magazine during the digital age. This digital transformation included a shift in content focus to include more political stories, a bold decision to take aim at high-profile music industry figures, and hiring several of his former The Daily Beast colleagues. Following his resignation, Schachtman will continue contributing to the magazine as a writer, while also exploring opportunities with other outlets and a potential startup project. Shifting gears now, let's delve into a topic that has been sparking debate across the country, contending with the age and mental fitness of our presidential leaders. As we look ahead to 2024, we've got on the horizon two frontrunner candidates, President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump, both of whom are nearing or exceeding the age of 80. Let's bring in Greg Spear to discuss this controversial issue. Greg, what have you found?
Ruth, this is a complex issue to navigate. Both men have gotten flack for their verbal missteps over the years, prompting 76% of registered voters in a recent poll to express major or moderate concerns about Biden's mental fitness, and around 48% harboring similar concerns about Trump. However, others question if there's a wider context to consider. What are the proven realities about aging and cognitive ability?
Indeed, Greg. There seems to be a presumption that reaching a significant age, such as 80 in this case, automatically leads to cognitive decline. What does the science say about this?
Well, according to Dr. Emily Rogalski, a neurology professor, a drop in cognitive abilities is a standard part of aging. Cognition usually peaks in our 30s, then gradually diminishes over time, leading to slower word and name recall, multitasking difficulties, and even minor decreases in attention span. That said, assessing cognitive ability is complex and requires more thorough examination than simply observing public speaking, adding that even day-to-day factors such as illness, stress, or lack of sleep can affect cognitive performance.
So it's not as straightforward as age equals decline?
Exactly. Other memory and cognitive abilities, known as crystallized abilities, actually improve with age. Chronological age doesn't necessarily reflect biological age. Moreover, some elderly individuals, known as superagers, boast cognitive functioning comparable to those 3 decades younger. Both Biden and Trump, who have parents that lived beyond 90, might have slower aging due to these genetic factors.
This certainly paints a different picture from the popular notion. It also seems crucial to remember that neither president is obligated to publicize their personal medical information.
Correct, Ruth. It's valid for voters to concern about the cognitive functioning of those in power. However, memory lapses or language stumbling shouldn't dismiss their ability to effectively fulfill their roles as leaders. Ultimately, these issues resonate with a more profound question: how we handle ageism and its potentially detrimental impact on society.
Indeed, Greg. It's a question that goes beyond politics and touches on our human respect and understanding. Thank you for that comprehensive analysis. We have more news for you right after these messages. Stay with us. We turn now to a developing story concerning the International Skating Union's, ISU, recent statement on the controversy surrounding Canada's placement in the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics figure skating team event. Following the suspension of Russian figure skater Kamila Valieva for an anti-doping rule violation, questions arose. Why did Canada not move up to the bronze medal position? Greg, could you unpack this situation for us?
Absolutely, Ruth. After Kamila Valieva's disqualification, the ISU rearranged the team's standings, with the U.S., Japan, and the Russian Olympic Committee (ROC) winning the Olympic medals, demoting the ROC from gold to bronze. However, Canada, originally in the 4th position, remained there, just 1 point behind the ROC. Both Skate Canada and the Canadian Olympic Committee expressed their disagreement with this decision, citing Rule 353, which states that teams should move up accordingly upon the disqualification of a higher-ranked competitor.
So what did the ISU say to this?
In their Friday statement, the ISU argued that Rule 353 was not applicable in this case, emphasizing the need to not adversely impact teams unrelated to the incident. The ISU has pledged to clarify its rules going forward. They also revealed that the total points for the U.S., Japan, or Canada did not increase following the team standings reshuffle, triggering confusion on how they reached their conclusions about updated totals.
Where does this leave Team Canada in all this?
The Canadian Olympic Committee is exploring options to appeal. It is worth noting that if points had been updated for all teams, Canada would have defeated the Rock by 1 point. The case has certainly sparked serious discussions within the figure skating community and the media about the ISU's methods for re-ranking teams.
It's clearly a controversial situation with a lot at stake. We'll definitely keep watch for updates on how it unfolds. Thank you, Greg. In the wake of persistently low approval ratings, President Biden has shifted strategies, mobilizing his cabinet members as messengers for the administration's economic policies. Spearheading these efforts is none other than Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, offering biting criticism of former President Trump's policies and providing concrete examples of the current administration's successes.
That's correct, Ruth. Yellen has quickly emerged as one of President Biden's most credible economic ambassadors. Despite voters expressing concerns about the state of the economy under Biden's policies, Yellen's experience and nonpartisan nature make her a highly effective communicator for the White House's economic message.
Certainly a challenging task for Secretary Yellen. Have we seen action from other cabinet members following this strategy?
Indeed, Ruth. Key figures such as Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, and Education Secretary Miguel Cardona have also been deployed to highlight the administration's legislative successes. These cabinet members, many bringing their own diverse backgrounds and histories, are tasked to promote Biden's legislative accomplishments not just among the general population, but specifically targeted key coalitions.
The president's age and memory have been points of concern following special counsel Robert Hur's report. Is the youth and diversity of Biden's cabinet being leveraged to ease these worries?
Right on the money, Ruth. The administration hopes that these younger, diverse cabinet members will arouse enthusiasm for Biden's run for a second term, particularly after Hur's report raised eyebrows regarding the president's age and memory.
Despite the clear political motivations, the administration appears to be careful to stay within legal boundaries. Can you elaborate on the Hatch Act's impact on this strategy?
Absolutely, Ruth. This federal law requires political and official activities for federal officials to be separated. While there are limitations due to the Hatch Act, the Biden White House and legal team are keen to ensure compliance, differentiating themselves from the Trump administration, which frequently danced around this law. But in doing that, they've devised a strategy that enables them to have powerful voices across the nation, explaining Biden's policies and their direct impacts.
A multifaceted approach to repairing approval ratings and securing support for re-election. It will certainly be interesting to see how this strategy plays out for the Biden administration. Thank you for your insights.
Anytime, Ruth. It definitely provides a fresh dynamics to the political landscape.
In an exciting turn of events, Colin Yost, beloved Saturday Night Live comedian and mainstay of the Weekend Update segment, is slated to take the Capitol by storm. This comes following the announcement that he's been chosen by the White House Correspondents Association as the headline entertainer for their 2024 dinner set for April 27. The White House Correspondents' Dinner is one of Washington's glitziest nights, traditionally attended by the President, First Lady, and a host of Washington insiders. President Donald Trump notably declined to attend during his tenure. However, this tradition is typically upheld. The WHCA president, Kelly O'Donnell, praised Yost, stating that his sharp insights perfectly meet this remarkable time of divided politics. She further expounded on his smart brand of comedy and keen observation, saying that they are set to turn up the heat on the national news media and politics. Colin Yost, an award-winning comedian, brings a slew of credentials, including 5 Writers Guild Awards, 2 Peabody Awards, and an impressive tally of 14 Emmy Awards nominations under his belt. The WHCA's annual dinner, more than just being a night of comedy and keen political roasting, serves as a fundraiser to provide scholarships for students interested in pursuing a career in journalism. After a brief pivot to a non-comedian headliner following the controversy sparked by Michelle Wolf's joke about then-Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the WHCA once again returns to its tradition of comedian headliners, previously including Trevor Noah, Stephen Colbert, and most recently, Roy Wood Jr. last year. We look forward to seeing how Yost brings his trademark style to Washington. Welcome everyone, I'm Ruth Sterling, with Soundly Human. Today we bring the Super Bowl phenomenon a bit closer, with testimonies from Super Bowl veterans, shedding light on the lure of the in-stadium experience. Despite soaring ticket prices nearing $10,000, the NFL's most anticipated event remains an electrifying draw for hardcore fans, corporate bigwigs, celebrities, and first-time attendees alike. Experiencing the Super Bowl live can be quite different from watching it on television with 100 million others. Mike Quackenbush, a lucky attendee of 9 Super Bowls, courtesy of his ties to NFL, found that while about half the spectators are keen fans, a significant portion are indifferent to the game's outcome. But for him, part of the rush was in the parties leading up to the game. For 2021 Super Bowl first-timer, Chelsea Bear, a Tampa-based resident, the experience was unique due to COVID-19 restrictions. Bear, who has cerebral palsy, savored the quieter ambience and reduced waiting times that year. Despite underwhelming halftime theatrics, Bear relished celebrating the Buccaneers' win with other local fans and healthcare workers. For Judy Abad, a San Francisco investor, 2 NFL experiences were more about corporate networking than the game itself, denoting an overwhelming fusion of see and be seen tendencies and high expenses. Abad recommends the experience but warns it might feel like a ripoff, even on an expense account. Lastly, lifelong Chiefs fan Mike Ryan described the roller coaster ride of shelling out $7,000 for the 2020 Super Bowl tickets with mixed emotions. Although the Chiefs lagged for most of the game, their late surge proved his gamble worthwhile. As our winners and losers show, attending the Super Bowl provides more than just a game. It's an amalgam of thrilling sports, uproarious parties, jaw-dropping expenses, and a true test of fandom. It's as much about the spectacle and camaraderie as it is about the competition on the field. The U.S. Senate appears to be inching toward a final vote on a pivotal $95.3 billion foreign aid bill. Although Republican Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky is employing some complex parliamentary strategies to decelerate the process, extending it into the coming week. The foreign aid bill, championing aid for Ukraine and Israel, managed to surpass a key 60-vote threshold for advancement on Thursday, with another procedural vote taking place on Friday night. However, without unanimous consent to expedite the legislative process, the Senate will likely work through the weekend, pushing the final vote into next week. Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, known for his contrarian stance, indicated that he is ready to force the Senate into extended sessions to debate the bill. Nonetheless, progress marches on with the foreign aid package, even though Republicans have blocked a broader bill that intended to fuse border deal discussions with the foreign aid provision. Lawmakers, from both sides of the aisle, are continuing dialogue over potential amendments to the package, how numerous, what kinds, and the necessary votes for each one to pass. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, acts as the voice of reason in this situation by emphasizing the Democrats' readiness to consider reasonable and fair amendments, urging his Republican colleagues to work collaboratively towards a time agreement. The foreign aid package is dense with significant provisions. At its core, the bill offers assistance amounting to $60 billion to Ukraine, $14.1 billion for Israel's security, $9.2 billion for humanitarian assistance, and $4.8 billion for regional partners in the Indo-Pacific, among other components. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, a Republican from Kentucky, underscored the necessity of the foreign aid bill. He rebutted critiques from his party, stating that more than 75% of the legislation channeled funds right back into local American investments. He noted in his remarks that the legislation would stimulate the American economy and bolster national defense capabilities. Despite the extended hours and contentious disagreement, lawmakers continue to soldier on, and a final vote on this integral piece of legislation will be eagerly awaited by many. In sports news, Liverpool star Trent Alexander-Arnold has revealed his ambition for the upcoming season, stating his aim is nothing short of winning the quadruple. In what seems a pursuit of giving a triumphant send-off to their manager Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool has indeed set its sights high. Our very own Greg Spear spoke with Alexander Arnold. Over to you, Greg.
Thanks, Ruth. Speaking with me at the launch of his After Academy, Alexander Arnold stated categorically that his focus is fully on winning every single trophy possible. Liverpool does have a solid lineup of competitions, and given their recent performance with them leading the English Premier League by 2 points, their ambition might not be far-fetched.
Quite an ambitious goal. Do you think they stand a chance in all 4 tournaments?
Well, Ruth, it's certainly not impossible. They're set to play in the 5th round FA Cup and have a promising last 16 Europa League match coming up. Not to mention the Carabao Cup final on February 25th.
That sounds like a packed schedule. How does he see Liverpool's chances in the league?
He openly admitted to the mounting pressure, but asserted that he backs his team against any other in the world. However, Trent did caution that other teams, notably Arsenal and Manchester City, are gunning for the Premiership trophy as well. Liverpool's recent loss to Arsenal, placing them on a level playing field with Manchester City, accentuates these concerns.
So essentially, every match from now will be like a final?
Exactly, Ruth. Trent emphasized that every game is a must-win for Liverpool, as even a draw feels like a loss given how tight the competition is. The Reds understood this all too well 2 seasons ago when they finished 1 point behind Manchester City.
And what are his thoughts on giving manager Jurgen Klopp the perfect send-off?
A poignant point of our conversation, Ruth. Alexander Arnold lauds Klopp for his immeasurable impact on the club and Liverpool City at large, such that even rival Everton fans acknowledged their devastation at his impending departure. His departing tribute was quite moving. Simply put, he sees Klopp as a figure bigger than football within the city. Back to you, Ruth.
Thanks for that great coverage, Greg. Only time will tell if Liverpool manages to achieve their ambitious quadruple dream. Meanwhile, we say farewell to a manager who certainly etched his mark on the beautiful game. Welcome back to Soundly Human. In what has been described as an unpredictable and exhilarating tournament, Ivory Coast and Nigeria will be contesting this year's Africa Cup of Nations, AFCON final. Known for its surprises, the championship journey of the host nation, Ivory Coast, has been an undeniably dramatic roller coaster. After sacking its manager following a disastrous group stage and being dubbed the tournament's agent of chaos, Ivory Coast is, notwithstanding, looking ahead to its 3rd AFCON title. In an unexpected turn of events, Ivory Coast managed to make it to the finals, even after placing 3rd in Group A and undergoing the transition of replacing its manager mid-tournament. The new caretaker coach, Imers Faye, saw his team come back from the brink of elimination to advance to the quarterfinals, then again to the finals on their own turf. This miraculous journey has earned Ivory Coast the endearing nickname, Zombie Elephants. On the other side, Nigeria, a long-famed powerhouse of African soccer, seeks to lift the trophy for the 4th time, despite experiencing a dormant period in their recent sports history. After prevailing against South Africa in a stunning penalty shootout, the Super Eagles now set their sights on the final. As the anticipation builds, South Africa and Democratic Republic of the Congo, both on the losing end in the semifinals, will contest in a 3rd-place playoff. U.S. viewers can catch all the action on beIN Sports USA. Both Ivory Coast and Nigeria have shown exceptional determination. Whether it will be the Zombie Elephants or the Super Eagles triumphantly raising the trophy this Sunday, this year's AFCON finale guarantees a thrilling showcase of soccer's unpredictability. Stay with us on Soundly Human for the unfolding drama from Alassane Ouattara Stadium in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. In a solemn revelation from the United Arab Emirates Defense Ministry, it was reported that 3 soldiers from the UAE Armed Forces, along with an officer from the Bahrain Defense Force, were tragically killed in an attack at a military base in Somalia's capital. The ministry confirmed that the incident occurred at the General Gordon military base in Mogadishu. Several UAE personnel were stationed at the base as part of an agreement to train soldiers from the Somali Armed Forces. 2 other individuals were also injured in the incident. The perpetrator of the attack was identified as a newly trained Somali soldier, previously believed to have defected from the al-Qaeda-linked terror group, al-Shabaab. An official from the UAE Army shared that the shooting took place when the trainers and Somali military officials had gathered for prayer. Shortly after, al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the brutal attack via a statement on its radio Al-Andalus. The group was officially designated as a terrorist organization by the United States in 2008, and by a UN Security Council committee in 2010. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud has strongly condemned this act of violence, stridently instructing the country's security agencies to conduct an expeditious and comprehensive investigation. The UAE, referring to the incident as an act of terrorism, pledged to work closely with the Somali government during the investigation. Undeterred, the UAE remains determined to combat terrorism and sustain peace and stability in the region. In the Georgia election racketeering case involving Donald Trump, co-defendant Mike Roman's defense lawyer is challenging the truthfulness of Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The defense claims their alleged relationship predates Wade's appointment to the case in late 2021. Slated to present a witness, Terrence Bradley, a former law partner and friend of Wade, has reportedly affirmed that the relationship began before Willis became district attorney in January 2021. Bradley, through Roman's defense attorney Ashley Merchant, is dissenting the prosecutor's claim that their relationship launched merely in 2022. Fulton County District Attorney's Office has refused to comment. The defense's argument has instigated a request to disqualify Willis's office from the prosecution and throw out the case, citing an alleged conflict of interest. Willis argues no wrongdoing, sees no need for a hearing, yet one is set for February 15. Accusations also suggest financial benefits she received from Wade via trips funded by case earnings. The filing points out a cruise taken by Willis and Wade post his hiring as a special prosecutor in 2022. It suggests the clandestine relationship was intended to benefit their personal lives using public funds. If exposed, the relationship could risk Willis's involvement in the case, possibly jeopardizing her personal ambitions, the defense argues. According to the defense, their initial silence puts their current sincerity in question. A response from Wade's attorney is awaited. Welcome to another update from Soundly Human. In recent entertainment news, several revelations around the farewell season of popular TV show The Office have emerged. Guest star Dakota Johnson, in a conversation on Late Night with Seth Meyers, painted a somber picture surrounding the filming of the mucho-anticipated finale. Delightful as it was to participate in the final bow of a series she thoroughly loved, Johnson's experience was far from sunshine and rainbows. The actor described the 2-week-long shooting stint, a surprising deviation from the initially assumed half-a-day dash, as, quite frankly, the least enjoyable period of her life. Despite her enthusiasm, Johnson found the on-set vibe to be considerably melancholic, even awkward. Explaining further, she noted that a strange mix of sadness and decade-long dynamics greeted her on set, while interactions with the regular cast were limited. The often outspoken Johnson humorously shared her role's background, engaging in tasks as mundane as faxing. Seth Meyers, ever the animated conversationalist, applauded her performance in these scenes, terming it as the most believable faxing he had ever seen in a television series. These revelations, shedding new light on the final moments of a treasured television staple, remind us of the untold stories and experiences that often underpin our favorite entertainment icons. Stay tuned for more such insightful reports, right here on Soundly Human. Welcome to Soundly Human. Our top story today concerns pop music creation, Taylor Swift, and one of the biggest sporting events of the year. Swift's travel plan from Tokyo to Las Vegas on a private jet for this Sunday's Super Bowl is capturing eyes around the globe. But Swift's tailor-made travel plans are far from alone. Clark County anticipates over 1,000 luxury private jets descending on Sin City for the sporting event, setting what could be a new benchmark for high rollers transportation. This hefty jet traffic is typical for the Super Bowl, often clocking in as the highest tally of U.S. private flights during any single event in the year, as per Winx, prominent private jet traffic trackers. Considering Vegas, popular among high-net-worth individuals, and being a hotspot for private jets throughout the year, it is no surprise that the city's first Super Bowl could potentially break all previous records in terms of private jet traffic. Last year's game drew 920 planes. To put it into perspective, the pre-pandemic record was 984 jets in Miami in 2020. The rather charged airstrips to expect these kickoff-bound flyers include Harry Reid International Airport, along with 3 private jet airports, North Las Vegas, Henderson Executive Airport, and Boulder City, near the famous Hoover Dam. However, a key challenge awaits. These airports combined can only house 500 jets from arrival to departure dates, thus requiring an intricate drop-and-go operation for the overflown jets to a different location until the passengers are set to jet off. An interesting tidbit is the number of incoming flights. Last Thursday saw 263 private jet arrivals, constituting nearly 30% of all flights touching down at these 4 airports, including commercial flights. Flight slots are booked solid and have been for months. Ladies and gentlemen, celebrities, Super Bowl spectators, and now our environment. The attention on Swift's private jet travel has sparked the conversation around climate change implications. Jet travel contributes substantially to carbon emissions, resulting in major environmental impact. Even as private jets consume only a fraction of a commercial jet's fuel per passenger mile, they burn an estimated 10 times more. While the pandemic triggered an upscale for private jet travel in recent years, it appears 2023 saw some first-time users switch back to commercial airlines. However, many new flyers have maintained their private jet usage, as per statements from Winx. Swift's flight and the overwing of private jets over Vegas skies serve as a potent reminder of the wealthy's travel preferences and its potential environmental consequences. Stay tuned to Soundly Human for more on this story and all things Super Bowl. In a drastic turn of events reported by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the bodies of 3 wolves, 2 of them collared, were discovered east of Bly, Oregon, in an area known for wolf activity. Authorities were alerted to the situation after the collars of 2 wolves sent out a mortality signal on December 29. The loss includes the adult breeding female, OR 115, and a younger wolf, OR 142, from the Gerhardt Mountain Pack. The third casualty, sans collar, was also determined to be a subadult or adolescent wolf. Unfortunately, the cause of their deaths remains undisclosed. The elimination of these essential members leaves just 7 wolves, including the breeding male, in the endangered Gerhardt Mountain Pack. Gray wolves in the western 2/3 of Oregon are listed as endangered under the Federal Endangered Species Act. As authorities pave their way through the investigation, a reward is offered for information that leads to an arrest, conviction, or civil penalty assessment related to the unfortunate deaths. Anyone with such vital leads is encouraged to step forward and contact the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or Oregon State Police. More updates on the circumstances surrounding the deaths are expected as the investigation unfolds. CNN is reaching out to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for further details on this developing story. The protection and survival of these invaluable species hang in the balance. The clock is ticking down, ladies and gentlemen, with less than 2 months to go before one of the most awe-inspiring celestial events that Mother Nature has to offer. We're talking, of course, about the total solar eclipse set to paint a swath across North America on April 8th. Joining us from the network today is Greg Spear, with all the details. Greg?
Thank you, Ruth. That's right. The total solar eclipse is on its way, promising a remarkable spectacle for all situated within the path of totality. This area, where the moon will completely obscure the sun, stretches 115 miles wide, sweeping from west to east, entering from northern Mexico and exiting through eastern Canada.
Greg, can you let us know which U.S. states lie along the path of totality?
Absolutely. Those situated in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine are all in the path.
Unfortunately, April may not offer the pristine viewing conditions we saw with the 2017 eclipse in August. What are some alternative options for those desperate for clear skies?
Eclipse enthusiasts are gearing towards Mexico or Texas to maximize their chance for clear skies. That's not to say that clear skies are guaranteed. The weather can be unpredictable and can turn quickly.
I've heard there's been a surge in bookings along the path of totality. Is that correct?
Indeed. Searches for accommodation around the dates of April 8th on Airbnb have skyrocketed, almost 300% compared to the same period in 2023. Despite this, there are still properties available, as well as some campsite options for those willing.
This definitely looks like an event not to be missed. What should viewers remember while planning for this eclipse?
The most important thing is to view the eclipse safely. Never watch it without eclipse glasses that meet ISO safety standards. Other factors to consider when planning are proximity, weather odds, and what else the location has to offer in terms of attractions.
Fantastic. Thank you for the rundown, Greg. You heard her, folks. April 8th. Mark your calendars, because this is a celestial event you don't want to miss.
Absolutely, Ruth. Back to you.
Turning our focus now to a heartrending story emanating from Kathmandu, Nepal. Ramchandra Khadka, a 37-year-old veteran mercenary, is praying for his countrymen who are risking their lives fighting for Russia in war-torn Ukraine. Khadka himself is no stranger to conflict. The previous battles he fought include the decade-long Maoist insurgency in Nepal, and serving as a military contractor for the NATO forces in Afghanistan. However, after returning home from Ukraine gravely injured and traumatized, he deeply regrets his decision to join Russia's army.
It's a truly harrowing account, Ruth. Having been drawn to join the Russian military because of economic instability and unemployment in Nepal, Khadka quickly found himself thrust into the brutal conditions of the conflict in Ukraine. He painfully recounted the devastation he witnessed in Bakhmut, Ukraine, a town that has seen some of the heaviest fighting.
Absolutely devastating. Do we know how many Nepalis are involved in this?
CNN sources estimate up to 15,000 Nepali men may have joined the Russian military, lured by the promise of a $2,000 salary and a fast-tracked Russian passport. The Nepali government, however, attests to a much lower figure. By their account, about 200 Nepal citizens are fighting for the Russian army, with at least 13 reported dead so far. Critics say these official figures are grossly underestimated.
It's certainly a complex situation. What's prompted these men to join the battle?
The primary reason, Ruth, appears to be financial. With Nepal classified as one of the world's poorest countries and a high youth unemployment rate, these men see such dangerous employment as the only solution to building a better life for their families. Poor global mobility tied to a Nepali passport also plays a role. These men are signing one-year contracts and are then quickly dispatched to the front lines after just 2 weeks of training.
2 weeks? That's shockingly brief training for a war situation.
Indeed, Ruth, it's a real cause for concern. Many returnees claim these language barriers and insufficient preparation resulted in the high casualty rates among Nepalis. The Nepali government has since banned its citizens from going to Russia for work. Notwithstanding, the desperation driving these men to put their lives at risk appears to endure. Hundreds of families in Nepal are currently living in fearful anticipation, hoping for the safe return of their loved ones.
An ongoing crisis indeed. Our thoughts are with the families affected. Thank you, Greg, for that report. We'll continue to follow this story and keep our viewers updated. In a politically stormy South Korea, the First Lady, Kim Keon-hee, is now in the middle of a controversy that is threatening the presidency of her husband, Yoon Suk-yeol. The president is just a few months away from an important election. But a latest scandal seems to be testing the waters. Greg, could you tell us more about this situation?
Absolutely, Ruth. Firstly, it is important to note that Kim Keon-hee is not your average First Lady. She had an established career in organizing art exhibitions even before she got married to Yoon Suk-yeol. She is known for her glamorous fashion sense, vocalizing against the dog meat trade, and promoting Korean culture. However, her love for designer handbags, specifically a $2,200 Christian Dior bag, has brought her into a political storm.
That seems rather unusual, Greg. How exactly did the Christian Dior bag become a political issue?
Well, Ruth, a video was leaked, reportedly showing Kim Kyon-hee receiving this bag from a Korean-American pastor, Choi Jae-young. As per South Korea's anti-graft laws, public officials and their spouses are forbidden from accepting gifts valued at more than $750 related to their public duties. This video was released by a left-leaning YouTube channel known to be highly critical of Yoon's governing party.
So, has she made a statement or defended herself in any way?
Kim has not yet addressed these allegations, despite ongoing requests for an explanation. This is not Kim's first rodeo with controversy. She has previously had to apologize for resume padding and allegations of academic plagiarism and stock manipulation, for which she has made no public comment. President Yoon has denounced these allegations, calling them a political stunt.
What kind of impact could this controversy have on President Yoon Suk-yeol's upcoming election?
This scandal is certainly proving inconvenient timing for President Yoon and his party as they prepare for a closely fought parliamentary election this April. It has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with Yoon's approval rate dropping to a 9-month low and 56% of people surveyed suggesting that Kim should publicly apologize for receiving the Dior bag. All eyes are on the situation as the ruling party battles to keep hold of power through this turbulent time.
It seems like a challenging time for President Yoon and his party. Thank you for the update, Greg. We'll be following this political scandal closely. Greetings. I'm Ruth Sterling with Soundly Human, bringing you a comprehensive guide to the Lunar New Year, one of the most significant festivals observed globally. Known as the Spring Festival, it marks the first new moon of the lunar calendar and spans 15 days. This year, it commences on February 10th. At the heart of Lunar New Year traditions is the Chinese zodiac, a 12-year cycle symbolized by different animals. Your zodiac animal sign corresponds to your birth year, with 2024 ushering in the Year of the Dragon. Zodiac devotees believe their fortunes are influenced by the positions of the stellar deities known as Tai Sui. Among the many Lunar New Year folktales, the legend of Nian is particularly noteworthy. Nian, a fearsome beast, was purportedly scared away by red banners, firecrackers, and red clothing, forming the basis for current Lunar New Year traditions. Preparations for the Lunar New Year officially begin a week before the festival. Homemade festive cakes and puddings, known as gao or gu, are savored, symbolizing growth in the upcoming year. Houses are meticulously cleaned on the 28th day of the last lunar month, symbolically ridding homes of past misfortunes. And the practice of hanging red banners, known as Fai Chun or Chunlian, wards off bad luck and welcomes good fortune. Highlights of Lunar New Year celebrations include a family reunion dinner on the eve, an occasion often marked by the exchange of gifts and red packets, known as Hongbao or Lai Si, believed to ward off evil spirits. The first few days of the new year are typically busy with family visits and the exchange of gifts. Ancient customs persist, with Day 3 of the new year, named Redmouth, seen as a day to avoid arguments and instead visit temples to make offerings. On Day 7, known as Renri, communities across Asia serve different birthday foods to celebrate the creation of humanity by the Chinese goddess, Nuwa. The grand finale, Yuan Xiaojia, or the Lantern Festival, arrives on the 15th day, traditionally marking the departure of winter. Lantern displays are set up worldwide, symbolizing a drive out of darkness and hope for the upcoming year. In some Chinese cities, elaborate fire dragon dances add to the vibrant festivities. Thus, the Lunar New Year, beyond a mere observance, is a profound cultural immersion that bridges tradition with the present, ushering in prosperity and unity. Moving to a concerning situation unfolding in Sudan. Internet connectivity continues for the third consecutive day of shutdown, significantly affecting the locals' ability to access healthcare, banking services, and safe zones. Violent clashes between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, have left thousands dead and millions displaced in nearly 10 months of fighting. Internet monitoring firm NetBlocks confirmed the telecommunications blackout in the country earlier on Friday. For more insight on this, let's turn to our reporter Greg Spear. Greg?
Thanks, Ruth. The Sudanese Foreign Ministry is blaming the RSF for the widespread communications blackout. It's a major crisis for the people already suffering, with the UN stating they are in dire need of humanitarian aid. Meanwhile, the RSF has not openly denied responsibility for the information shutdown.
Just how serious is the humanitarian crisis?
Ruth, the situation is indeed grave. The conflict of the past 10 months has displaced millions, many of them hungry and in desperate need of support. The UN has urged for immediate financial assistance of $4.1 billion to meet the most urgent needs, expressing the growing concern about the epic suffering in Sudan. Half the population, some 25 million people, need protection.
And how is the aid being handled amid this blackout and continuous war?
Regrettably, the ongoing war has severely affected the delivery of humanitarian aid. Attacks on aid workers and facilities have further disrupted the process. The Sudanese Armed Forces and RSF have both been accused of failing to honor their commitments to facilitate aid provision. However, in an attempt to deflect accusations, the RSF called on international organizations to provide urgent relief, claiming that the opposing forces were obstructing aid delivery.
What's the impact on the civilian population, particularly children, Greg?
Ruth, nearly 18 million people are facing the severe threat of hunger. Civilian infrastructure, such as water supplies, has been damaged by the fighting, with 3/4 of health services not functioning in conflict areas. About 19 million children are not attending school. The war has forced children to make up nearly 4 million of the people who have fled their homes. It's even more dire in the North Darfur Zamzam camp for displaced people, where at least one child dies every 2 hours from malnutrition, according to Doctors Without Borders.
Horrendous. How is the international community reacting to these alleged human rights violations?
Both the Sudanese Armed Forces and the RSF have been accused of gross human rights violations. The U.S. has held both groups accountable for war crimes and the RSF specifically for crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing. The International Criminal Court prosecutor has also stated there are grounds to believe that genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity are being committed in Sudan's Darfur region by both the SAF and RSF and their affiliated groups. The international community, Ruth, is witnessing a critical situation unfold with a strong call for immediate intervention. Back to you.
A deeply horrifying situation indeed. Thank you, Greg, for the comprehensive report. As this crisis continues to unfold, we'll keep our viewers updated with all innovative developments. This is Ruth Sterling from Soundly Human, bringing you an unfortunate yet significant story. Last spring, Idaho residents Jen and John Adkins found themselves faced with a heartbreaking decision. Jen was pregnant with a baby diagnosed with Turner syndrome, a disorder that led to a 90% chance of miscarriage and potential severe health risks for Jen herself, such as edema, high blood pressure, and preeclampsia. However, due to Idaho's stringent abortion laws, even in situations where the pregnant woman's health is at risk, the couple couldn't get an abortion without crossing state lines. Finding themselves compelled to navigate Idaho's complex abortion ban, which became operational when Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, they embarked on an out-of-state journey to Portland, Oregon. They noted that this not only required considerable time and expense, costing over $1,500, which was met only through help from family and abortion access funds, but it also felt dehumanizing. Their story is becoming increasingly common, as highlighted in a lawsuit filed against the state of Idaho by several other plaintiffs, including Dr. Julie Lyons, a family medicine physician in Haley, near Sun Valley. Lyons notes the discomfort in having to discuss life flight insurance during prenatal visits, anticipating pregnancy complications that doctors can't treat in Idaho due to these laws. Moreover, the ban is also driving away health professionals specializing in higher-risk pregnancies, causing a further healthcare crisis in the state. Jen and John Adkins' story underscores the urgent need for reevaluation and clarity regarding medical exceptions in Idaho's abortion laws. The lawsuit, filed by advocacy organization, the Center for Reproductive Rights, amplifies this demand. Denying the claims of medical professionals leaving the state due to the abortion law, Raul Labrador, the Idaho Attorney General, maintained that the state's healthcare system prioritizes safeguarding the lives of pregnant women. For now, though, Idaho residents like Jen and John Atkins continue to grapple with the harsh realities of the state's rigid abortion laws, their lives stationed at the forefront of a nationwide debate on reproductive rights. We hope their story exerts substantial influence in driving change toward more compassionate and comprehensive healthcare guidelines. Thank you for tuning in to Soundly Human. Today, we'll delve into the world of aviation safety, given the recent runway collision at Tokyo's Haneda Airport, and an incident involving an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9. Joining us is Greg Speer, who has been following the ups and downs of this unfolding story. Greg, tell us, should passengers feel uneasy?
Following these concerning events, it's understandable to feel a bit of uncertainty. But aviation safety expert Jeffrey Thomas tells us there's no need for panic. Despite recent troubles, Boeing has numerous checks in place, and he asserts he'd have no hesitation in boarding a Boeing aircraft.
That's reassuring. How do these recent incidents impact aviation's long-standing safety record?
Experts aren't dismissing these incidents, but they underscore that historically, flying gets safer as manufacturers and airlines improve systems and learn from mistakes. Two Boeing models, the 787 and 777-300ER, and several Airbus models, have never suffered any accident with fatalities. The industry is continuously working to keep improving safety.
Speaking of safety ratings, which airlines are considered safest?
Airline Ratings recently published its list with Air New Zealand, Qantas, and Virgin Australia topping the list among others. While incidents do occur, aviation is touted as the safest mode of transportation.
How do the Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board factor in?
They investigate all incidents, like the Alaska Airlines event, and ensure that the necessary inspections are carried out before an aircraft is airline-worthy. Post-collision, Japan made changes to their air traffic control procedures, highlighting the process of learning and implementing improvements after incidents.
Put in perspective for us, Greg. How safe is flying, really?
A study by MIT's Arnold Barnett showed a significant reduction in the death risk per boarding from 2008 to 2022. The risk dropped to 1 death per 13.4 million boardings, far lower than some everyday risks like shark attacks. There are, however, disparities with regions like Asia, Africa, and Latin America having slightly higher rates.
Aviation safety certainly seems to have come a long way. It should be comforting for travelers, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, Ruth. Although some anxiety can persist, it's important to remember that aviation incidents are growingly rare. Focusing on personal safety measures on board and acknowledging aviation's overall improving safety trend can help ease concerns. In the grand scheme of things, aviation remains an incredibly safe mode of transportation.
Thanks for your insights, Greg. Indeed, flying safety is all about perspective. It's important to always look at the long haul, both literally and figuratively. We turn now to a tragic story from near Philadelphia. Authorities believe they've recovered the remains of all 5 family members from a burned-out home, and the one relative who is suspected to have caused this tragic incident. Greg, can you fill us in on the details?
Absolutely, Ruth. The horrifying event began on Wednesday. A grandmother identified Con Le as the man who began firing inside the home. After shots were fired, a fire was set, taking the lives of everyone inside, including 3 children.
What a horrific incident.
It is indeed, Ruth. Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer has stated that they believe Con Le likely killed everyone before setting the fire. A DNA investigation is due to take place to identify each set of remains, as well as the manner and cause of death.
So, the authorities feel confident they have the whole story?
They do, Ruth. Authorities received a call just before 3:50 p.m. on Wednesday, reporting a child had been shot in the home. When officers arrived, they were met by gunfire which led to 2 officers, David Sciazza and John Meehan, getting wounded. Luckily, they're both recovering now.
Just a senseless tragedy. So what's next for the investigation?
With the primary suspect identified and no survivors, the criminal investigation will be closed after confirmation. The home will be handed over to the city and is due to be torn down. Authorities are still working to determine the exact timeline of events and how the fire was started.
Thank you, Greg. All we can do now is send our sincerest condolences to the friends and family affected by this tragic event. In a significant win for climate scientist Michael Mann, a jury has ordered former scholar Rand Simberg and media personality Mark Steyn to pay over $1 million for defaming Mann's work. The lawsuit, stretching over a decade, was filed by Mann in 2012 against Simberg, Steyn, the Competitive Enterprise Institute, and the National Review. Simberg and Steyn had written blog posts mocking Mann's research on global warming and controversially compared him to convicted child molester Jerry Sandusky. The posts stated Mann has molested and tortured data in the service of politicized science. Further ridicule was leveraged against Mann's hockey stick chart, illustrating the sharp increase in average global temperature since pre-industrial times. The Washington, D.C. Superior Court jury awarded Mann $1 million in punitive damages and symbolic compensatory damages of $1 from each defendant. While the court dismissed Mann's case against the Competitive Enterprise Institute and the National Review in 2021, he plans to appeal this decision. In a statement, Mann said, "I hope this verdict sends a message that falsely attacking climate scientists is not protected speech." His lawyer, Pete Fontaine, lauded the verdict, calling it a victory for all scientists who dedicate their lives answering vital scientific questions impacting human health and the planet. Representatives for the defendants have yet to comment on the verdict. In a significant development related to a spate of bizarre tampering incidents at the Dallas Zoo, a 24-year-old man named Davian Irvin was indicted Tuesday on felony burglary charges. The charges trace back to the peculiar disappearance of 2 tamarin monkeys and a clouded leopard known as Nova. Irvin has been linked to the alleged monkey theft and the unusual chains of events surrounding the escape of the leopard. Court records reveal that Irvin faces 2 counts of burglary, both relating to these aforementioned incidents, which unfolded in late and mid-January. Apart from this, Irvin also stares down 6 misdemeanor accounts of non-livestock animal cruelty in connection with the missing monkeys. In an unsettling turn of events, the monkeys were found unharmed, hidden in a closet of a local home just days before Irvin's arrest on February 2. The indictment implicates Irvin, alleging he had entered the zoo without consent and had committed a theft. In an audacious alleged encounter, Irvin supposedly entered the leopard's enclosure and attempted to pet the beast. His plan, however, was foiled as the light-footed feline made a vertical escape attempt, following which the zoo was compelled to coordinate an intensive and extended search for the animal. Further to this incident, the indictment suggests that Irvin's intent in the leopard case was also theft. It's worth noting that this high-profile case by no means represents an isolated incident. The Dallas Zoo has experienced a series of suspicious activities involving animals, including the death of a vulture under unusual circumstances. Although Irvin has been linked to an incident involving langur monkeys, he hasn't been tied to the unfortunate demise of the vulture. The arrest and subsequent indictment have been a wake-up call for the zoo administration, prompting them to reinforce security measures, including the installation of more surveillance cameras, and bolstering on-ground patrols and overnight staffing. In the days ahead, the legal case against Irvin promises to unravel further intriguing details about these disconcerting zoo incidents. CNN is actively reaching out to Irvin's public defender for a comment. As of now, the man, accused of turning the Dallas Zoo into his personal Jumanji adventure, remains under police scrutiny. The popular American TV network CBS is banking on the charisma of This Is Us star Justin Hartley for their brand new series, Tracker, a books-to-TV adaptation of the novel The Never Game. Following on the heels of its prior success, The Equalizer, Tracker presents Hartley in the role of a mercenary, Coulter Shaw, who finds missing persons for a price. A quick brief about the character, Greg?
Well, Ruth, Hartley's character, Shaw, is certainly multifaceted. He suffers quite a few injuries in the opening episodes, a surprising element which, on a lighter note, seems like an opportunity for Hartley to show off his well-toned physique.
The series maintains a procedural format, with Shaw taking on a new case each week and traveling the country in a fully equipped recreational vehicle. Quite a unique life, wouldn't you say, Greg?
Absolutely, Ruth. It's a touch of the old-school detective shows with Shaw dispatched by the dynamic partners Abby McEnany's Velma and Robin Weigert's Teddy, remotely via phone.
Greg, is it true the show features an extended cast, including a tech guru and a former flame of Shaw, who is also a whip-smart attorney?
Indeed it is, Ruth. A brilliant hacker provided by Eric Grays and a savvy attorney, portrayed by Fiona Renee, bolster the cast. Renee's character becomes especially useful as Shaw tends to ruffle the feathers of the local authorities who aren't too keen on mercenaries.
The narrative also delves into Shaw's personal history, involving his survivalist father, portrayed by Lee Tergesen. How much of this do we see in the show, Greg?
Well, Ruth, the show reveals this backstory in nuggets, sporadically hinting at a strained father-son relationship through flashbacks, almost like a mystery unfolding parallel to the main narrative.
With Justin Hartley doubling as a producer, the success of Tracker certainly holds personal stake for him. Will this new show, with its huge publicity launch, manage to resonate with viewers and secure an extended run? Time will certainly tell. Welcome to Soundly Human. On our global agenda today, Moody's Investors Service announced a significant change in Israel's economic outlook following its prolonged war with Hamas. Moody's has downgraded Israel's credit rating from A1 to A2, reflecting the heavy economic blow dealt to the nation due to the ongoing conflict. This conflict has resulted not only in thousands of human casualties, but has also ramped up global geopolitical tensions. Moody's statement points to the enduring strife with Hamas as a substantial basis for their decision, predicting it will persistently affect Israel's political stability and challenge its governance institutions and fiscal strength. An A2 credit rating, while still considered investment grade, can raise the cost of borrowing funds, adding further strain to Israel's economy. This announcement comes following a stern caution in mid-October, after Hamas' violent attack on Israel, that the country's credit rating was at risk of a downgrade due to the severity of the unfolding conflict. Moody's has based its decision on factors including Israel's projected substantial increase in defense spending, which is expected to nearly double by the end of 2024 compared to 2022 levels, creating a higher budget deficit. Current negotiations surrounding a proposed ceasefire and increased humanitarian aid to Gaza have also been noted. However, Moody's insists no clear outcome or timeline can be determined as of yet, introducing further economic uncertainty. The agency has also expressed concern over the potential escalation of the conflict, including potential involvement by Hezbollah, a potent Islamic group with paramilitary forces to Israel's north. We'll keep our viewers updated as this story continues to unfold. The news continues. Soundly Human Newsroom starts in 60 seconds.